Hi everyone, Summer with Astariosen, and I wanted to do a VR to Tangy Tarot. She had done a video of her first 5 decks and her current, like her last 5 decks that she just has recently gotten. Anyways, I really liked it. I thought it was really fun to do because you can kind of see differences in where you were and where you are currently, kind of thing. So I'm not gonna lie, I may have at least one that's an oracle, not a tarot. But only for a very good reason, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Okay, so the whole point is to show you the ones that I got originally, like when I first started, what was it, almost 5 years ago now, and what I've currently bought for myself, like this last year or two, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do. So first up is the oracle. It's the only oracle I have in the set, and it is actually this deck right here. It is by Amy Brown. It's the Fairy Wisdom Tarot deck. I have a walkthrough and a side-by-side of this old version plus the new version, and this deck is absolutely stunning. I'm not going to take it out of the box, but I really enjoy Amy Brown's artwork, and it comes with this really great book. I don't think you can actually get this specific deck, this one right here anymore. You can get the new version, and like I said, I'll probably leave like a link down in the description for my walkthrough side by side of this deck, but with the updated version as well. But this is the deck that got me into tarot, so I felt like it needed to be part of my first 5 tarot decks because it's actually literally what got me into tarot. Okay, so then I bought the Shadowscapes Tarot, which, you know, everybody knows the Shadowscapes Tarot. It's really a gorgeous deck by Stephanie Pullman Law, and the artwork is really hard for me to see though, which is why I don't use it as often, but I've often considered this one of my soul decks because I just resonated with the energy and the artwork of this deck so much. Yeah, so, and I consider it a fairy deck, of course. And then I got, after that one, believe it or not, I ended up getting Crystal Visions. Crystal Visions ended up being my second soul deck. It's the one I currently use for all of my current, like, super personal readings and stuff like that. It's also great for love readings. Like, I love the Crystal Visions. I love it so much. I love it so much. I have 2 of them. Right? And I couldn't tell you, like, this is just one of those decks. It makes me feel good. It's got a great energy to it. The artwork is beautiful, of course. And I mean, I don't like the borders, but I'm not really good at cutting the borders off, which is why there's still borders on it. This is actually one of my favorite devil cards of all the devil cards, too. It's just so different from, I mean, this is based off RWS, but it's just so different from the other devil cards, you know? So this is one of my soul decks, one of my very first decks too. I think I ended up getting a weird deck that I just couldn't resonate with. I used it like once and then I traded it for this one. I don't even remember what that deck was. And then the next one I got was Paulina Cassidy's Joie de Vivre. And this one I still have, but I don't really connect with it super well. I love her artwork, and she's very fey to me, you know? And I love her artwork. I actually own almost all of her decks. But I can't read with Joie de Vivre very easily. And I don't know if it's because of where I am in my journey or what, but I love the artwork, which is why I still have it. I've only read with the Joie de Vivre a couple of times, a handful of times really, and I don't know, I keep it because I keep hoping that one day I will resonate with it. It always felt, I know it says Joie de Vivre, which is, you know, like the joy of life in French, right? But it doesn't feel like a joyful deck all the time to me, and I think maybe that's what's, you know, getting in my way. And then my 5th one my first deck is the Fairy Lights Tarot, and I actually almost gave this deck up. I almost did, because I had a hard time reading with it at first. And here's the thing, I'm a first-time tarot reader, right? And I'm attracted to fairy decks, right? So here I am attracted to fairy decks, and they are not the easiest tarot to always read with, okay? They're just not. So the Fairy Lights Tarot is a beautiful deck, and once I realized that each card was a half of a whole, right? Because if you've been around for a while, the Fairy Lights Tarot, originally the artist had done like a full picture, cut it in half, and one is one card, okay, might be the Queen of Wands, and another one's another card, which might be the Ace of Pentacles, right? It just depends on how they go together and how the artist split them up. Some of them are majors and minors, and majors and court, or something like that. But once I learned that, I was able to read more intuitively with this deck and got a lot better readings and felt more comfortable with this deck. But at first, it didn't click with me, and I kept struggling with it. But I'm so glad I didn't get rid of it. It's one of my favorite decks now. So yeah, all 5 decks are pretty much fairy decks, right? They're pretty much just straight up fae decks. They are also, I mean, the Amy Brown one and the Crystal Visions ones are probably the only ones that are easy to read with. Shadowscape, Joie de Vivre, and Fairy Lights Tarot are much more difficult decks. I wouldn't consider them first-timers. For, you know, good decks for straight up first timers, which is what I jumped into, which is why I think I read more intuitively, is because I was intuitive more with the art than I was the RWS meanings, even though all of them are kind of based RWS style, right? So then this last year or two, the newer decks that I ended up getting, I got the newest edition of the Ethereal Visions, which is the Luna edition. And I got the indie version. And I got this one because I really loved Ethereal Visions. I really did. And I wanted the updated version of it, because I just love it. I have Ethereal Visions, and then I wanted Luna. So it's a beautiful deck. I can't say that it's fairy, but I do feel like it has that whimsical energy that I like. Plus, I am a fan of Art Nouveau. That is a thing I learned. I am a fan of Art Nouveau and watercolors, by the way. So, something I learned about myself. Yeah. So, I got that one. And then I jumped into the For Hoxa Tarot. Or no. Yeah. No, I got the Rainbow. I can talk today. Tarot at the End of the Rainbow is the one I got next. And this one is, I mean, basic RWS. I have been studying this deck, though, and I've talked about this a couple of times. I'm still not finished with my study, but I've been studying this deck and really working with it in a different way, like understanding a more intuitive, more depth way of reading with this deck. It doesn't really have a lot in the book, and I feel like there should have been maybe a little bit more to it. So this is very RWS standard, right? Which was none of my first decks, right? Also very RWS standard. Again, not one of my first decks. Then there's the For Hoxa Tarot, which is what I ended up with next. It's the only, well, other than recently I ended up given the Crow Tarot. But it's really the only MJ deck that I wanted, that I got for myself, and this is the indie version. And they're big and they're giant, and I loved reading with it. It is RWS based, but it's more, you know, in the form of intuitive reading kind of RWS, you know, like Shadowscapes or Fairy Lights. There's a lot more involved in these cards than just the basic reading, and MJ goes into that even in her book, where she has, you know, she's enjoying her little stroll through the forest and talking to forest creatures and fairies and coming up with the stories that go with it. So, I mean, that's really cool. The next one I got was, these two are literally like within the last couple of months I got. And I got Tarot of the Fairy Folk. Again, it's a very straight up kind of deck, but I think this one's Thoth based maybe, or like a mix between RWS and Thoth, but I feel like it'd be better for more of the first timers kind of thing. The only thing about this deck is there was a lot of surprising features in it, and it is more of a Pips deck, which I think I don't know, I'm not really a Pips person, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this deck or not. I haven't decided. I haven't really worked a lot with it, but it is in my current collection. I did buy it within the last couple of months. So there's that one, Tarot of the Fairy Folk. And then the last one that I literally just bought once it came out kind of thing is the, sorry, I'm trying to put that together. The Sweet Forager's Daughter Tarot. And this one, again, is another Fae deck to me, or like Elfie Fae, Whimsy kind of thing. I do enjoy this deck. I've read with it several times already. I like the size of it. I like the feel of it. I like the energy of it. And the guidebook is, I mean, not only is the art like super cute, but the guidebook, again, follows this like journey that you're going through. And I haven't really done like a walkthrough or review on this deck yet, mainly because I have like a ton of stuff going on. December is crazy for stuff like that. But this is my 5th deck that I got this year. So let's talk about the changes, okay, from beginning to end, right? Well, beginning to this year, right? So beginning, like, everything is fairy. And the end, I kind of ventured a little further into non-traditional fairy, or a little more into what I might like, you know, like ethereal visions. And the Furhawks is not traditional fairy, but there's more tradition in my later decks than there was in my beginner decks. And I don't know, maybe that's because I was more intuitive at the time, and then as time has gone on over the last few years, I've been trying to learn more about standard RWS and learn the meanings and get more in tune with those kinds of meanings. So I think that's why maybe my newer decks have more of the standard RWS going on. Yes, Miss Needy. So I don't know. I'm curious to see what other people's first decks are, because I do think that we start one way, and by the time we get where we are, like this year, you know, this most current year, we've changed. Sometimes our tastes change, sometimes our reading changes, sometimes we find a completely different system, because Rider-Waite-Smith isn't the only system, right? There's Thoth, there's Marseille, there's Lenormand. I think there's even another one out now, but I can't remember the name of it, sorry. So I'd be curious to see more people do a VR to Tangi Tarot, and I'd love to see what your first 5 decks were and what your most recent 5 decks are. And I think it's great to end 2023 in, right? So thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Tangi Tarot, for doing that video, and I hope you guys have a very great day.